I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Yeah.
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Rachel didn't even seem like she cared or liked the source material. I mean, that is just far from a graceful Disney princess-like promotion. It's far from what you would think.
Let's talk about one of the biggest disasters Disney has faced in years, the Snow White remake starring Rachel Zegler. And no, this isn't just a mid-movie that got mixed reviews. This was an absolute train wreck from casting to box office, and the backlash has only gotten louder. First off, Rachel Zegler. She went from being celebrated for West Side Story to becoming one of the most controversial Disney casting choices in recent memory. From the start, fans were confused. Disney cast her as Snow White, the iconic character known for being cheerful, graceful, and traditionally soft-spoken. But Rachel, she came across as uninterested and sometimes even dismissive of the original film. And yes, that infamous interview, where she said the original Snow White was creepy, the prince was a stalker, and her Snow White wouldn't be saved by a man.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
She straight up admitted she didn't like the original movie. Like, how do you take on a legacy role and then basically drag the source material in public? It rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Even those open to a modern retelling felt that her attitude came off as ungrateful and performative. Disney princesses are about charm and heart, and not about looking like you're doing a social justice TED Talk in every promo clip.
The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
And let's talk visuals. The released images and behind-the-scenes footage didn't help either. Rachel looked visibly unhappy in most shots. Not smiling, not glowing, and definitely not giving off any magical fairy tale energy. People were expecting a vibrant, whimsical lead. Instead, we got someone who looked like they didn't even want to be on set. Meanwhile, you have Gal Gadot playing the evil queen. And somehow, she ended up being the most captivating presence in a film called Snow White. That's a problem. Now fast forward to the release, and it was brutal. The movie pulled in about $43 million during its opening weekend. Not a complete disaster at first glance, but it fell off a cliff after that. By the second weekend, earnings dropped by 70%, which is basically box office death. 2 weeks in, it barely crossed $120 million worldwide, which is catastrophic for a big-budget Disney project. And the reviews? Even worse. IMDb shows over 163,000 user reviews and a humiliating 1.6 rating. That's not just bad, that's legendarily bad. For context, that's down there with movies that are actually considered unwatchable. So now the question is, was Rachel Zegler just miscast? A lot of fans think so. It's not just about race or modern updates, people were ready for a new take. But what they got felt like a complete rejection of the original, with a lead actress who didn't seem to care about the role or the fan base. And then adding fuel to the fire comes Snow White and the Evil Queen, a rival film starring Brett Cooper from The Daily Wire, a conservative YouTuber. This movie seems like it was designed to be the ideological opposite, traditional, loyal to the source material, and clearly targeting audiences who felt Disney had gone too far in rewriting classics. That project has created an even sharper cultural divide. Now, it's not just about whether a movie is good or bad, it's become a full-blown culture war.
Rachel didn't even seem like she cared or liked the source material. I mean, that is just far from a graceful Disney princess-like promotion. It's far from what you would think.
Let's be real. Disney tried to modernize a beloved story, but ended up alienating both old-school fans and new ones. And Rachel Zegler's attitude during the press run didn't help at all. When you're playing a role that's supposed to embody innocence, joy, and fairy tale magic, you can't afford to come off bored and smug. Bottom line, this wasn't just a flop, this was an embarrassing moment for Disney. and it's going to be remembered not just for bad box office numbers, but for how not to handle a remake. And here's where it gets even messier, because this isn't just about one bad movie anymore. Industry insiders are looking at Disney's Snow White flop as more than just a box office disaster. They're calling it a wake-up call, moment where studios are being forced to rethink how far they can bend or modernize classic stories before breaking them completely. It's no longer just about diversity or inclusion, it's about execution. And Disney, quite frankly, fumbled it. Some critics have gone even further, tying the film's failure to broader cultural and political trends. One commentator even said, "The Democratic Party and Disney are attached at the hip," echoing that now infamous phrase, "Go woke, go broke." Whether or not you agree, that slogan is becoming a brutal shorthand for how audiences feel about forced messaging and entertainment. And instead of reflecting on whether maybe something went wrong with the film itself, Rachel Zegler's response? She blamed external factors, most notably the Daily Wire's competing Snow White and the Evil Queen for creating market confusion. That's right. Rather than owning any part of this $100+ million flop, she pointed fingers at a lower-budget indie competitor and said that was the reason audiences didn't show up. Let's be real, that did not land well. Critics, fans, and even neutral. Viewers were baffled by the lack of self-awareness. People weren't expecting her to get on her knees and beg forgiveness, but some humility, acknowledgement, a hint of reflection? Nope. What they got was a PR-style deflection that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Social media lit up with memes, commentary, and side-by-side comparisons of both Snow Whites. And let's just say, the internet wasn't kind, and the drama doesn't stop at box office numbers. Behind the scenes, things got messy. Insiders say Rachel Zegler and co-star Gal Gadot were far from a fairy tale duo. Tensions allegedly ran high due to their polar opposite political beliefs. Gadot, proudly Israeli and known for supporting her homeland publicly, was reportedly in direct conflict with Zegler, who has shown outspoken support for Palestine. Now, while no one has confirmed full-blown arguments on set, the atmosphere was said to be tense and divided, with crew members often caught in the awkward middle. Meanwhile, Brett Cooper is skating in with the exact opposite energy. Her take on Snow White is all about going back to the story's roots: love, kindness, inner beauty. She said flat out, no politics, no agendas, just classic storytelling. And audiences? They're intrigued. Some are saying she's what people wanted from Disney in the first place. So now, what started as a fairy tale remake has turned into a full-blown ideological showdown. Zegler is being painted as the face of Hollywood's progressive push, while Cooper's becoming the darling of the traditionalist crowd. Two Snow Whites, two worldviews, and a fandom that's clearly divided. Online, the vibe is pretty consistent. Nobody seems to be taking full responsibility for the failure. It's a blame game. The director blames backlash, execs blame market confusion, and Zegler, she's still pointing fingers at external forces. Fans, meanwhile, are just mourning the loss of that magical, simple, enchanting vibe the original Snow White had. You know, the kind of movie that didn't preach, didn't provoke, didn't turn a princess into a political statement. It just told a beautiful story. Now, the rumors are flying that Rachel Zegler's involvement in this misfire could be career-altering. Her name is now attached to one of Disney's most talked-about disasters. Whispers in casting circles suggest she's suddenly become high-risk talent. Directors don't want drama overshadowing their project, and like it or not, she's bringing a lot of it. One exec was overheard saying, "She brings more headlines than ticket sales. That's a problem." On the other hand, Brett Cooper, despite the Daily Wire brand being polarizing, is thriving in the spotlight. Like her or hate her, people are watching. She's gaining traction not just as an actress, but as a countercultural icon. And in today's climate, that kind of buzz is gold. This entire saga has left Hollywood at a true crossroads. Do studios keep chasing online applause, rewriting classic tales to fit ever-shifting social narratives? Or do they return to the roots, telling stories that transport audiences rather than divide them? Because if Snow White has taught Tinseltown anything this time around, it's chasing Twitter validation while ignoring your actual audience might just be the fastest way to bomb at the box office. What started as another glossy remake has spiraled into a full-blown cultural battlefield. Zegler and Cooper aren't just leads, they're avatars for two opposing visions of what entertainment should be. Zegler pushes forward with progressive ideals, modern feminism, and social messaging. Cooper waves the flag for classic values, simpler times, and staying true to original storytelling. And critics? Oh, they're having a field day. Many argue that Disney wanted the nostalgia and the applause, but ended up pleasing no one. The magic was lost in translation. For a massive chunk of Disney's once loyal audience, the film didn't feel like an update. It felt like a betrayal. At this point, even fairy tales aren't safe. Parents are now having to pick their version of Snow White based on worldview, not storytelling. When did bedtime stories start requiring a political stance? As one veteran Hollywood producer put it, audiences can tell when they're being lectured to versus when they're being entertained. That quote, "It's the dagger in the heart of this entire fiasco." Meanwhile, studios like the Daily Wire are stepping in, snagging attention and audiences, proving Disney no longer owns the fairy tale crown. The monopoly is cracking, stock is slipping, fans are voting with their wallets. And suddenly, legacy franchises don't feel so safe anymore. Add in social media where every trailer, tweet, and behind-the-scenes rumor becomes viral fodder, and you've got a pressure cooker. Memes are flying, hashtags are trending, and public opinion is changing by the minute. Zegler and Cooper have both pleaded for civility. But let's be honest, this debate got ugly fast, and neither side is backing down. So now, Hollywood is sweating, audiences are reacting, studios are scrambling, and the industry that once dictated culture is now being dragged by it. But hey, in an industry where one minute you're the fairest of them all, and the next you're the face of a billion-dollar flop, one thing's for sure, this Snow White war is far from over. Stay tuned, because in Hollywood, the real drama is never just on screen.